Thank you for giving good basics. And I guessed the microwave right, but I didn't guess the other ones. So I think you've alerted all of us that how do we expect people to understand in this world of beeps? I kept thinking they were all my refrigerator wanting me to close it. So thank you. I'd like to now go on to the next step. And Abby, are you here to talk to us about, this is Abby Kelly from the American Red Cross. They have been our partner over several years now in making sure that we can get CO alarms in to the homes. They've had to make some adjustments during COVID, but I'll let Kelly talk about that. Are you there, Kelly?
I am. Thank you so much, Artist.
Abby, what I'm doing, I got Kelly Ramsdell and sorry, Abby.
That's
Kelly.
Okay. Can you hear me okay, Artist?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I had a little change of plans, so I apologize. I'm in my car, but as long as you can hear me, that's all good. So good. Good. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abby Kelly, and I am the Regional Preparedness Manager for the Northern New England American Red Cross. I am super excited to be here. This CO Alliance Summit has been such a source of information, and it's just is super helpful for all of us to continue to move this work forward. So I really want to thank you all for letting us come in today. And I'm here to give you a brief update and also talk a little bit about what we do at the Red Cross and how we've incorporated the CO poisoning prevention message into what we do. So as I said, I'm the Regional Preparedness Manager, and a lot of people think, what does that exactly mean? Well, I will tell you that I think I have the best job in the American Red Cross because all I get to do is help people to be prepared. There's not a person that I know that doesn't need this message, so I have a pretty easy job as well as a good job. So when you think about preparedness, I work in disaster cycle services. And if you think about the disaster cycle, there are 3 parts of the cycle. The first, at least I like to say the first, is preparedness. And obviously that means that we want to build, sustain, and deliver preparedness programming in order to make sure that families, individuals, organizations, and communities are prepared and more resilient. I teach a lot of classes to children, and we always talk about that to be prepared is to simply be ready. So that's an easy way to think about it. The next part of the disaster cycle is response. This is what most people think of when they think of the American Red Cross, when a disaster happens, and we respond by providing sheltering, feeding, health services, mental health care, spiritual care, and reunification services. The last part of this cycle is called recovery. Now, this is where we work to provide assistance to families and individuals in developing their recovery plans, also accessing the full range of community and government resources, as well as advocacy and problem solving. And one of the most important things that we talk about is with preparedness, we are also really working in each of those parts of the disaster cycle, because if we do have a natural disaster, obviously, hopefully people will be more prepared so the impact of that disaster will not be as great, and also providing more resiliency. So when I talk about preparedness in my job, I am responsible for all of our preparedness activities throughout the 3 states of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. We have 3 basic programs in preparedness. The first is youth preparedness, which is where we provide preparedness classes that empower our youth to learn how to, 1, be prepared and have a plan, but we also encourage those in their household to have a plan. We not only talk about a local hazard and fire prevention, but with the work that we've done with the CO Alliance, we've made sure to add CO prevention to all of our youth preparedness classes. Last year, just simply with these youth preparedness classes, we were able to teach 792 children across the 3 states not only their local hazard fire prevention, but also the CO poisoning prevention information. We also have our community preparedness classes, which are preparedness courses for individuals and organizations to learn how to have a plan, make a kit, and stay informed. Again, due to our work with the CO Alliance, we have included our CO poisoning prevention in each of our presentations. Last year, just in the last year, and again, as you can imagine, during the pandemic, we were able to present our programming to 533 people, again, across Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And that just reminds us that that's 533 people who have received that messaging. The last one is our home fire campaign, and many people don't realize that the American Red Cross has this program. But what we do with the home fire campaign is that this allows us to go to people's homes. We provide smoke alarms. We provide a fire prevention education, and we also install these alarms for free to our community members. Again, this program is completely free, and it is a nationwide program. The CO Alliance has done a variety of things with us in this program. First of all, it has allowed us to include the CO poisoning prevention messaging within our education that we provide to every household that we speak to. Last year, as you can imagine, we were providing this service virtually, but we were still able to provide 511 homes with this education. Also, we've just started doing our installations again within the last 2 weeks. So that's very exciting. Excuse me. Because not only are we able in New Hampshire and Vermont to provide our smoke alarms for free, but we are also allowed now, due to the CO Alliance, to provide the homes with at least one free, and I apologize, one free CO detector as well, or alarm, excuse me. Oh, Neil, you're going to get on me on that one. And what is great is that we have people who have called us to say, our smoke alarms are great, but we do need a CO alarm. And we're able to go into the home and provide that alarm, but a lot of times their smoke alarms are not up to par either. So it provides us that opportunity to be able to offer both. We have certainly had some challenges in the past year and a half, as I'm sure all of you can relate. As the COVID-19 pandemic has grown, the American Red Cross obviously continues to work closely with public health officials to deliver our life-saving mission where and when it is safe to do so. We have also had quite a disaster season, as you all know, where between the wildfires and our hurricanes, we still have current and active disaster relief operations going on throughout the country. Our hope with the home fire campaign is to partner with fire departments and other community partners who already go into people's homes in order to continue with our alarm installations and education. With all of that said, I am still proud to announce that since July of 2019, which has been in the last 2 years until now, we have installed over 380 CO detectors in people's homes and are looking forward to continuing our work moving forward. The other thing that we are hoping to do is to expand this program into at least the state of Maine. Let's start with the state of Maine. And so that we will be able to continue our work in all 3 states. So that is our update. And I'm excited to hear what Fire Marshal Joe Thomas is going to be talking about after, because I know that he will be talking a little bit about expanding this program so that we can truly provide these services to much further reach than just Vermont and New Hampshire. Again, I really want to thank everybody for letting us come in and give you this update. I'm so excited that we are continuing to provide this messaging to as many people as we can. Again, because I've never met anybody that didn't need this messaging. If you ever have any questions or concerns, I will ask that if someone could put my email in the chat, but I will give it to you as well. My email is Abby, ABBY, Kelly, KELLY, at Red Cross, all one word, .org. And I am happy to answer any questions at any time that you may have. Thanks again. And back to you, I think, Artis. Okay, so I am, and it's funny that you asked me that, Artis, because I was having a conversation with somebody from our national headquarters today, and I was discussing this with him, and he was like, "Oh, I desperately want this to be a nationwide thing." It comes down to a variety of different things, but I'm certainly selling this message as hard as I can, and hopefully, I think with all of our work that we've been doing, I think that we will be able to continue to spread this message, first of all, and second of all, getting the alarms into people's hands, and so that's really exciting for me.
I'd just like to jump in here real quick and acknowledge my boss, Michael Deroser, the Executive Director of the Division of Fire Safety in Vermont, and just ask if he would give us a little welcome and all that. It's really about partnership here, folks. You've seen a lot of our different partners, and the fire marshal's offices have really started really getting onto this CO thing. So I just like to turn it over to Mike for just a little bit.
I'll let you then introduce Joe afterwards.
Okay.
Hey, good afternoon. I know many of you. I'm certainly real happy about all the work that's been done with the CO Alliance, and certainly the news is traveling. Carbon monoxide has always been on the forefront of us here at Fire Safety, and we continue to modify our rules and adopt standards that can better protect the public. You know, the messaging that has resonated across the country here over the past few years has been actually stunning. It's not to say there's not a lot of work to be done, but we've gone a long ways. And one of the items I've always kind of focused on a little bit was things we can do to limit the production of carbon monoxide to start with, right? So it's not just a matter of having the technology out there to identify it and so forth and educate people and sound the alarm. All that is part of the big puzzle. But at some point here, you know, some of the focus has to be with the manufacturers to provide redundancy in these systems to help reduce the risk of even producing carbon monoxide to start with. That's where we have spent some of our focus and time training our fuel service technicians and so forth in that area, and targeting, you know, if you have an appliance that is running efficient, you know, you can reduce the production of CO. And, you know, I know there's a lot of other CO sources other than heating appliances, but as Neil said, we're getting into the heating system here up in the Northeast, so we're kind of focused in right now on heating safety. So with that, if there's anything now or in the future that we can do here in Vermont to support all your efforts, please reach out to us. I love what's being done here. I look forward to many more years of seeing this grow. So thank you all very much for allowing me to speak for a minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Very, very good and always informative information. We talked a little bit earlier about our partnerships at the Alliance. And earlier this past year, we had the opportunity to start expanding our Alliance. And the great state of Maine, through Fire Marshal Joe Thomas, decided to get involved in the efforts. And Joe was going to give us just a little bit of information on what's happening in Maine and, you know, basically why they wanted to become part of this and how to grow it even further. So thank you, Fire Marshal Thomas, and take it away.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to see all of you today. And I must say, as a previous presenter at the summit as a guest, it's nice to be here as a partner. And I do. I think it's critical that we all work together. And I think what I have to say will kind of set the example and the tone for that. Maine has had a carbon monoxide law on the books since 2009. The initial efforts were a partnership of actually a very good friend legislator that we have in the legislature, has been there for years, the Professional Firefighters of Maine, the Maine Fire Chief, our office, and as legislation goes, it has been a long, drawn-out process to get to where we wanted to go. And I'll set the stage by putting my nose right out front and saying, every time that we go to our political bodies, whether they be on the state, local, or federal level, to adopt a national code that we have before us, and we're required to take exception to some of those articles of that code, we as a society are allowing our citizens to live in substandard housing and occupy substandard buildings. And I know my agency here, each and every one of us, are always working to see that the full compliance of the code is enforced. In 2009, we started with the traditional movement, if you will, of code acceptance. Multi-family homes were included, rental units were included, buildings converted, fraternities, sororities, the bigger buildings that you would associate with those type of protection. We were able to get some single family components in there. If they added a bedroom, they had to have a smoke detector. If they were converted from some other use, they were included. We saw some changes in 2011 where newly constructed hotels, motels, inns, B&Bs, fraternities and sororities, if they were new construction, they were required to have CO detectors. Any single family or multifamily that was sold or transfer of ownership was required. And 2012, we had renovated occupancies in hotels, motels, dormitories. And in 2015, we actually got our educational facilities, schools, etc. Any educational facility, private or post-secondary, that was used by 6 persons or more for 4 hours a day or 12 hours a week was required to have carbon monoxide alarms in there. We're very pleased with that, and yet we still understand we've got more work to do because there are still homes out there that do not have CO detectors, and we have incidents with them every day. One of the things that we're doing here, particularly in Maine, is we're working in, well, first of all, let me say, we are a very small agency. We have about 40 people on the code enforcement side and the investigation side of the house. And with that 40 people, we're trying to maintain the safety of all of our residents, tourists that come to our state in safe housing and safe homes and safe occupancies. Now, that being said, we have to focus our attention on where we think we can have the best outcome with the most success. So one of the things that we do is we sit back and we look at the process of fire safety from what are our most vulnerable populations. Well, right now, one of our most vulnerable populations is our elderly, our senior citizens. Maine has a very extensive initiative going on for what's referred to as aging in place. It's an initiative that is really required because our state's population is aging, and yet we do not have the facilities such as assisted living facilities, elderly apartment units, etc., to house all of the people that really may need that service. So the focus is, well, then how do we allow them to live in the existing facilities they're in and do so from a service provider's standpoint? So they're looking at public transportation. They're looking at Meals on Wheels. They're looking at community paramedicine. They're looking at a variety of things that can bring the services to those folks as they reside in their homes. But I turn around and I'm going to tell you that from a fire safety standpoint and a safety standpoint, we're doing a terrible job. 62% of our fire fatalities in Maine are people ages 60 and older. What we're seeing is the fire fatalities that we're seeing. We're not losing just one person in a home. We're losing both the man and the woman. So consequently, what we've tried to do is focus on, if we're going to have people aging in place, then let's make sure that it's being done safely. So understanding that vulnerable population is one thing. And in regards to that, we look at it from the standpoint of what are the hazards going to be in that home and how should they react to it and be accordingly able to get themselves out of that environment if they need to. Now, one of the interesting things that has developed as a result of this is not only just the aging in place from a purely age standpoint, but what are the circumstances? And one of the things that we're seeing, along with the changes in fire dynamics, such as the need for people to get out of their homes quicker if there's a fire there, it is such things as how does mobility play into that? And along with mobility, how does the decline of cognitive ability with our age as we get older play into that as well? Well, interestingly enough, some of the things that we were starting to see was that within that environment of people being protected and provided service such as healthcare, we saw that cognitive ability was being questioned as to whether or not it might be the onset of early cognitive decline or dementia or Alzheimer's or things of that nature. And what we found was there were some studies out there and some references to the fact that chronic low-level exposures could be having an impact on this ability. So we turned around and said, well, then we need to make sure that, number one, the process for notifying those people that there is the potential for a carbon monoxide problem exists. So working with the Red Cross over the past years that we've been doing that with them, we know for a fact that we have put out over 20,000 smoke detectors to the citizens of Maine. We know now that we're also going to have the ability to expand that with the potential of having availability for carbon monoxide detection as well. The trouble that we have is 593 times in 2020, fire departments responded to calls for carbon monoxide. But we know that that is probably a low number because in many cases, we don't have an emergent response of the fire department. It may be just an ambulance that's going to check on the welfare or well-being of the people that live there. So consequently, we've had to partner up with other groups that have more viable connection with the populations that we're dealing with, such as the AARP, Maine Agencies on Aging, the Red Cross. We're presently working with the State of Maine's Department of Health and Human Services as part of the planning group for the state plan for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias in Maine. And within that realm, we are involved in trying to bring chronic low-level exposure to carbon monoxide to people's awareness that there may be some other considerations that need to be. And in essence, really, what we're trying to do is change the culture of the way these situations are looked at. Our goal for the fire marshal's office is to provide awareness, education, and where appropriate, better legislation and statutory law. And I use an example of a circumstance that happened last year in the town of Freeport at a hotel down there. At that hotel, they had the component parts. They actually had the detection. They had the alarms. They had the staff. They had the operational foresight of things to be in place. If an emergency were to happen, the things were supposed to be in place and able to deal with it. What we found as a result of an example down there was they had there were 3 rooms adjacent to each other at the end of one of the hallways. At about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, one of the CO alarms goes off. The maintenance man goes to that room. It was unoccupied, unlocks the door, goes in, and sees or hears that the CO alarm is sounding. What does he do? He doesn't call 911. He changes the alarm, puts in a new alarm, and the alarm again goes off. So he calls the fire department. He doesn't call 911. He calls the business line for the fire department. So at 8 o'clock the next morning, when the fire department administrative staff come in, they have a voicemail from this guy at this hotel that a detector is going off. They then respond. Now we're talking 4 hours later from the time the original detector went off. At that time, the on-duty chief took a monitor with him into the building, and as soon as he got into the lobby, which is completely remote from the rooms involved, he's pegging 175 parts per million on the meter. So my point to this is we can have the component parts, but if awareness, education, and regulation don't work together, then the system is doomed for failure. So that's really where we're coming at this from. My rationale for wanting to be a partner in the alliance is that I believe we can have the best bang for the buck by working together. And there is never anything that I'm aware of that happens in one state in New England and that state alone. It usually affects all of us, just as carbon monoxide issues do. And so one of my first goals for being a partner in the group is to bring the other states on with us so that we are truly a Northeast New England collaborative dealing with carbon monoxide issues. And I'm pleased to report that we do have commitments from the state of Massachusetts and Connecticut to join us. And we're hoping that Rhode Island is next online. That will give us our true Northeast New England alliance dealing with carbon monoxide. So that's really an update of where we are in Maine and how we got here, and glad to be here. So